Oh, testing. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Joey, we're live.
Oh, no.
It's the second episode of the Whistling Dixies podcast.
It's the second chapter.
Second chapter. What do we dub this one?
The cruel intentions of the Handmaiden.
Dun dun dun. Ooh, sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a sexy episode.
Unintentionally ended up being that, yeah.
We didn't mean it for this to be it. We randomly did a random number generator for both of these films, and
Yeah, we did a raffle.
And we're talking about the classic film from 1999, Cruel Intentions, and American film, and then we're talking about the 2016 South Korean film, The Handmaiden,
Right.
by Park Chan-wook.
Wook.
Chan-wook. I should always let Joey introduce names. I always mess it up. That's what we've learned. Honestly, I should just stop talking most of the time.
But then I won't say anything either. And
It'll just be silent.
Yeah. Maybe that's for the best.
Maybe we should just keep it how we do it, where I just fumble through my words and Joey eventually says something.
We're just having fun.
Yeah, we're here drinking our lattes.
It's coffee.
It just we got black coffee right now because we don't add anything to our lattes. Like we're just a bunch of girls,
right?
Watching
a bunch of the
a whole two girls watching some
erotica.
That is the genre we're talking about, erotica, and we didn't definitely mean to do that, but here we are.
Yeah. It's interesting how this kind of came about, but it's an interesting pairing. It kind of...
So far, it's the most relatable pairing, because the other pairing we did was definitely more of a far-fetched thing.
Sure, yeah.
But we'll definitely see how the end of this episode, what comes next.
Right. How the story continues.
How Chapter 3 will unfold. But
right.
Chapter 2 is what's important right now. So which one do you want to start with?
I think we should talk about The Handmaiden to kind of go with how our last episode was, where we talked about the
high arts.
The art film first. Yeah.
So, I mean, if anyone's unfamiliar how we're doing this, this is the second episode of our new concept where we're looking at two different films from kind of the higher end of kind of art house films. Yeah. Foreign films. A little bit lesser known, maybe more known to people who watch cinema.
The two opposite sides of the spectrum.
And then the fun schlocky side can be good, but for a different reason.
Yeah, it can have aspects that deem it worthy of being discussed beyond just being, a quote-unquote bad movie.
Yeah, it's got enjoyable parts to it. Yeah. So the first film we're talking about is The Handmaiden. Once again, I'm not talking about pronouncing the director wrong. Mm-hmm. But Park, who has directed Old Boy.
Yeah, he directed Old Boy, Thirst, and I think before this, his most recent thing that he made was his English language debut, which was Stoker.
Yeah, Stoker.
With Nicole Kidman, Mia Wasikowska, which that was a movie that was really kind of divided between people. There's a lot of people that thought it was just kind of pretentious garbage.
I see. But I've only seen Old Boy, so I really couldn't tell you much other than that.
Yeah, I like this director quite a bit. Old Boy is it's deemed a classic by a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely in South Korean cinema too. Like, yeah. I feel like he, at least in this particular area, that early 2000s, that's kind of what put South Korea on the film map a little bit more. I feel like the output from South Korea, like since then, they've kind of went the horror route or the romantic or drama route. Like, I honestly, a lot of the things that I've seen are action adventure type of films. I mean, I've opened my eyes to a lot of Korean cinema, probably just based on Old Boy alone.
Yeah. Yeah, this director definitely was made a huge impact on foreign cinema, sort of branching out more here, at least in recent era, I guess.
Yeah, stuff like The Wailing or I Saw the Devil, things like that. Just just really good films. But anyway, so The Handmaiden. Joe, you want to start off with some of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, The Handmaiden was a really interesting parallel with Cruel Intentions because it's definitely a film that delves very much in very perverse, sort of provocative subject matter, but it takes place within a setting and sort of era where you would not really expect that.
No, not at all.
It's a period drama.
Yeah, like a Victorian era.
Yeah.
But it's like during the Second World War, around that time period.
Sure.
Where Japanese had a colonial rule over just Korea in general, I suppose, because there wasn't two Koreas, there's Korea at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely like a hidden world.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like.
Yeah, it feels like it's sort of peeling back certain things that are happening below the surface, I guess, of like this, this sort of tumultuous time in history, and it kind of makes you rethink that era a little bit.
Yeah, there's probably some accuracy behind some of this.
Yeah.
But it definitely, this was like actually really interesting. I did look into it a little bit more. Obviously, I'm looking at the screen right now, but I do remember looking into it this is an adaptation of a novel called Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. So this is just an adaptation from him. So he put it in like his own cultural context,
right,
with an own story. I'm sure there were some stories he probably came together with that influenced this.
Yeah,
that's really interesting that source material was adapted for that particular time period and space.
Yeah.
So this movie is divided into 3 parts.
Right.
It's definitely highly cinematic. It feels definitely like a very gorgeously shot film with like really amazing designs from just architecture standpoint, costume designs, that colonial era thing that you'd see.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful looking movie, for sure.
And also thing that I'd like to point out too is the score is just like really uplifting but sometimes really abrupt and jarring, and like it just really matches the tone of the film very, very well. And I think it matches the period a little bit too.
Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to start talking about this movie because there's a lot that happens in it. It's about 3 hours long.
Yeah, but it's interesting that it's cool to me that it's able to take its time sort of escalating things, which is definitely very much a film that's about escalation and sort of like people reaching a boiling point, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it kind of moves along really well. It's able to really ramp up the sort of feelings between its characters and sort of peels back what's going on with them, and like sort of the really kind of seedy, weird stuff that's happening behind the scenes that you might not expect at first, but then when it kind of throws you into it, it's just like super jarring and a little confrontational about that sort of subject matter.
I'd say jarring is probably the most apt word to say, because I as I was watching, probably like the first, half of the film, I definitely was like, okay, this is just, pretty subtle, with, some exposition that exists, but like, once you get to a certain point, it's like, oh my God. And it hits you.
It goes all in at times. It really kind of it makes you feel a little blindsided by like how graphic and how just how far they go with some of the things that they depict here.
It's extremely sensual and but like almost like a forbidden fruit. But at the same time, it's very reminiscent of like probably humankind at its worst.
Yeah.
Like just that perverse kind of nature to it. Just
Yeah,
really
that
shows
definitely comes from like the male side of that.
Oh yeah, this is definitely absolutely a female
Yeah.
themed kind of message.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie's trying to show how awful, at least this particular time period is, especially.
Yeah.
Where the power is definitely not in their hands.
No.
And they get taken advantage of in this way.
Right.
It's a really crazy movie.
Yeah, it shows how sadistic and you know, scummy men can be, and it's hard to really get thrown into all of that, but it's the way the world is, and it really doesn't really hold back in that regard, and I respect this film very much for that.
Yeah, and something I was talking to Joey about earlier is with other things that I've noticed with some, South Korean cinema at least, there's been an aspect of like raw, abrupt, and like perverse, but at the same time like just extremely, just extreme. That's probably the best word to describe a lot of the things that I've seen in just a lot of different things, from like Old Boy to I Saw the Devil, just like this it's not like over the top. It's like almost realistic, but it's just like there's nothing holding it back from showing you the stuff that's going to show you. It's like, here's what this is.
Yeah.
This is the information, and like there's something genuine about it, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something I've liked about at least South Korean cinema in the last few movies I've seen from this particular region of the world. And this is just another fantastic example of something like that.
Yeah, it's very confrontational in its execution, I would say. Yeah, you could definitely go back to not just Old Boy, but some of the other Park Chan-wook films, like Thirst and Stoker, like I had mentioned before. Both of those are very very intense in their themes and in their ideas. They're also, like you were saying, very sensual in different ways, not just in like a sexual way, but in the way that he approaches violence, especially with Thirst, which is a vampire film. It is definitely a unique approach to that sort of genre that I think a lot of people, I don't think, really talk about that film very much, but it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard of it or haven't seen it before.
Yeah, no, we were talking about it earlier, and I'm interested now in exploring it because it's just something I'd be interested in.
Yeah,
this movie definitely reminds me, honestly, at times, part like Taxi Driver with some aspects of it. When I say that, I mean like just, it's really hard to explain. I guess I'm thinking more of like Old Boy, and then like I guess more recently in You Were Never Really Here. That just, I mean, the theme of just being like, this is the reality of this thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like I feel like that's along this kind of theme, but like obviously this is in a more fantastical world that is definitely like always glorified a little bit in cinema. I feel like because it's like some kind of Victorian era kind of thing. It's just like, well, everyone was acting privy, and like obviously a lot of this sensual stuff was behind the curtains, and there wasn't this celebration of sexuality like you would see in certain corners of the world, but like, or just in modern cinema.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, and I thought it's a really beautiful film, but also a really perverse film. Yeah,
and I really love the juxtaposition there between those two sides of it.
The art and the sacrilege.
Yeah, just like the sort of like the perversion mixed with the high society sort of angle to this story.
Yeah, this is actually I think obviously we're going to talk about Cruel Intentions in a bit, but it's really interesting that this pairs super well with it.
Yeah,
like that exactly talking about that.
Enough, it does.
That whole era of like that kind of higher echelon of art mixed with the perverse, and we're about to get into the perverse territory again.
Yeah,
but in another high society context, at least in America.
Yeah, but it told in a more like commercial, more American.
Yeah, 90s feel too.
Right. Yeah.
So, anything else you got to say about The Handmaiden?
I just want to say that it's a really great film.
Yeah.
I don't know if in talking about it, I've praised it enough, but yeah, it's a special one for sure. It's definitely one of the best films of 2016, which is that's the year that it came out, and that's the year that I went and saw it in a theater full of just like me and a bunch of old people, and that was very bizarre. But I don't remember anyone walking out, so that's
or anybody doing anything else there.
Yeah, I can't confirm or deny that. If they did, then they had some real nerve, because, like I said, it was a full house that night.
Well,
but, yeah.
You definitely know what you're getting into. I just want to let people know when I say, I mean, obviously, people who are listening to this generally like film because they view this on my YouTube channel or through some kind of means that we're going to try to get to soon. Mm-hmm. But I hope that people know that, like, obviously, if you're listening to this, you will be interested in it. But if you have no idea and you're a normal moviegoer, just know it's a pretty extreme film. But
yeah,
it's good
for sure.
All right, let's go.
I think we're ready to get into
the intentions, the cruel intentions of the Handmaiden.
I think I'm ready to get a little cruel here.
I think I'm a little ready for some craziness. Transition slide whistle. It was a really lame.
I'm on whistle duty tonight, so mine probably not going to hear as much of it this time, which I know is probably going to be a bit of a disappointment to everyone. But
it's okay. I'm going to cut this part out, though. Well, I think the best way to start this entire segment is playing this in the background.
Is the theme song?
Yeah, I can't play too much of it, though, because I feel like, well, no one really watches this.
That's true.
Does anyone remember this song from the late 90s, early 2000s?
90s kids only
will only know what this song is.
If you were born in the 80s, you have no idea.
I had no idea this song was associated with this movie.
I didn't either. I mean, it was probably huge at the time.
Yeah.
But
this movie came out when I was 7. So I just gotta let the people know.
I was like 4 or 5, maybe.
Well, that's enough of that. But people know what that song is. It's The Verve, Bittersweet Symphony. But we'll get to the end later.
Sure, yeah.
But
Okay.
this movie, so this movie came out in 1999.
Right.
Directed by Roger Kumble. Starring...
Sounds like the... Sounds like the
movie.
Sounds like the kind of person that would direct this, maybe, right?
I don't even know what he's done.
I've looked at him.
You have?
That's an awkward sentence, but...
I've looked at him.
I've looked at him.
He's done the second one, too. That was the last thing he did.
He did Furry Vengeance.
Oh, okay, no. That's the last thing he did as a writer. The Sweetest Thing, Just Friends, College Road Trip, and Furry Vengeance.
That was Brendan Fraser's Last Stand.
Wait, is this really what I think it is?
Yeah.
Oh my god. There's actually a thing with 7% approval rating on Rotten.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, going back to Cruel Intentions.
Going back to Furry Vengeance real quick.
Yeah.
Back in 2010 was like a time when I was just, I'll see every movie that comes out. Kind of like I am now, but...
but in a very different sense.
But this was one, even back then, when I was still, relatively young, this was one that I was just like, I can't do it. There's no way I'm seeing that.
Oh boy. Well, it looks really really great.
Yeah, maybe we'll cover it on the
maybe we'll add it to the list.
Probably not, but...
But anyway.
Who knows?
Who knows? But Roger Kumble directed this film with Sarah Michelle Gellar at the height of her powers.
Right.
When she was doing Buffy, right at the very beginning.
Okay.
Ryan Phillip, who is no longer really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And Reese Witherspoon, who is also big, and Selma Blair, who's barely in it.
She's awful in this movie.
Oh my god, yeah, she's bad. She's really bad.
Sorry to say it.
In all honesty, Reese Witherspoon's the best actress in this movie.
Yeah. I think the most, by far, like, the only, like, decent human being in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But good God. This is a fun adaptation of an 1700s, 18th century France
Dangerous Liaisons.
Dangerous Liaisons.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Joey, what do you want to say about this?
Well, I'm not exactly familiar with Dangerous Liaisons. I know it's been sort of adapted and readapted.
Weren't you in drama? That's
No.
not me either. But I'd hope that they'd cover this. This is a classic story.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to begin basically setting up this whole thing.
Yeah, this thing.
This movie is basically... I don't know what it was about the 90s, but there are quite a few movies about, like, teenagers making bets against each other about, like, dating people. Because you remember, I think She's Gotta Have It, was that?
Oh, yeah.
About
that is a thing.
The jock that, like, gets roped into dating, like, the nerdy, quiet girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I think...
A couple Adam Sandler movies were like that, too.
Yeah, and
I feel like...
There's another, like, big teen movie that was like that, I think. But I can't really pinpoint what it was.
And almost it all follows the same formula where, like, eventually the person who's, getting betted on, they fall in love with that person in real life. And then they realize and they hate them for a good chunk of the part of the movie. And then
They somehow end up...
they somehow still end up together despite all that bets. And this is another classic example of that.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Interestingly enough. Okay.
But anyway, Joey, what were you saying?
So this is basically about these two hoity-toity rich teenagers.
Rich
I guess.
fucks.
They're
a bunch of rich fucks.
Yeah, right. Awful, horrible, rotten, rich, beautiful people. Who, for whatever reason, they have this little wager put against each other, where Sarah Michelle Gellar bets Catherine,
who's the stepsister
of Ryan Phillippe, Sebastian, and they basically decide, I don't know, they decide to have a little fun because they're both I don't know.
They're fuck boys.
They're
but except one of them's a fuck girl, I guess. If that's
fuck girl.
I don't know if that's even a term, but that's what Sarah Michelle Gellar is. I don't know, but anyway, Sebastian has always had a crush on Catherine.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah,
enough.
He wants to fuck his stepsister.
Yeah.
And let's just put it out there.
And he's always been able to fuck whoever he wants, and she's always been able to fuck whoever she wants. But they've always been terrible.
They're masters at manipulation.
Exactly.
I mean, part of that is because just maybe everyone that they end up targeting is just really stupid.
Yes. Oh my god.
According to this movie, that's how it is. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Charlie O'Connell. Is that Court Reynolds? Is that her name? Is that the girl's name?
Yeah.
Speaking of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I recognize her face, but I'm like, that's probably one of the most sheltered kids I've ever seen. But also at the same time, it's like, she clearly knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. But anyway, what were we going to say?
They basically put this bet against each other about these two making these new conquests. Mm-hmm. Ryan Phillippe is trying to get with Reese Witherspoon, and Sarah Michelle Gellar is trying to get with Selma Blair.
Okay, that's what I meant, Cecile. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry about that.
Gotcha.
Go on.
Yeah, and so if Sarah Michelle Gellar wins this, she gets his car.
Yeah, his nice whatever car it is.
Whatever fucking expensive vintage car it is, sure.
I mean, it's pretty badass.
Okay.
I just like your... Okay.
I like how that's like what she wants because it's just like supposed to be...
It's a Jaguar XK140. Let's look at this real quick. We got to look this up.
Oh, wow.
It's a 1954 to 1957, so it actually is kind of a really expensive looking car and things. And
yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, that's the car.
Yeah. It's the kind of car that you look at and you're just like, yeah, some fucking rich asshole owns that, I bet.
And they always have some kind of thing up for them for some reason. But anyway, that's what she wants.
Yeah, she wants that. And then if Ryan Phillippe wins, he 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 gets to fuck his stepsister finally.
Whoa! That's exactly the sound I was thinking of when he wants to fuck his stepsister.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not related, though.
I guess you're right about that part, but I mean...
It's kind of hot.
Yikes.
Yikes. No, it's definitely yikes. I mean, I get it. Sarah Michelle Gellar is really pretty, but she is awful.
Yeah.
But so is he.
Yeah, both of them are terrible. Most of the characters in this movie, except for one, like I said, are all, like, pretty bad in one shape or form.
Even the music teacher.
The music teacher is probably the second place for
good.
He's like second best. He's not perfect, but he's second best probably.
I mean, he anyway. This whole thing.
It's a mess.
I don't know. I liked Blaine's the gay friend.
Yeah,
I thought he was pretty funny.
Yeah. That brings another thing to mind is this movie is from 1999 and
very different.
They are throwing around slurs of all kinds
left and right
in this, and that was pretty shocking to me, more shocking than like most of the actual content of the movie. It's just like,
well, yeah, that was that time period, man.
Yeah,
I mean, even like the closeted gay, jock, that character that is like what was Friday Night did Remember the Titans have one of them too?
Maybe.
I feel like there's a lot of that going on. But anyway, yeah, that was just a thing, I guess. We've come a long way.
Sure, yeah.
Still not best, but we still have come a long way, at least in cinema.
Right, yeah.
So we're not what we were, it looks like 20 years ago.
I think that, if anything, it just adds another layer of sleaze to this.
It's definitely a sleazy movie.
It's very sleazy. That's probably the most apt word to describe it, is sleazy.
I was kind of turned on the whole movie.
Good for you.
I mean, only like, halfway. It's bad. It's sleazy.
Partial.
It's partial.
But anyway, yeah, pretty much the duration of this movie is just this sort of, basically the two of them seeing where they'll be able to get the upper hand in this bet so that, she can win a car and then he can fuck his stepsister.
That's what life's about, actually. I honestly think the theme of this movie is what everyone really wants at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was made to be like every teenager's fantasy.
It's a cultural
to have
critique.
So much expendable income, and then just be able to have like this
ability to fuck a sibling.
Exactly.
I mean,
the American dream. Baby.
The American dream. That's what this movie should be subtitled.
Right.
Cruel Intentions, The American Dream.
The American Dream.
Rated R. Rated R for mature audience only. Well, what else did you want to say about Cruel Intentions?
There's a lot to unpack with this one.
It's true. There's a lot.
I think one choice that actually I thought was interesting was the opening shot of just miles and miles of tombstones. Mm-hmm. The opening shot is just this huge, like, cemetery, and then you just pull up, and then it's just like Sebastian's car driving into. I believe this takes place in New York.
Yeah, and there's some symbolism there.
Yeah,
kicking in.
Right, a little bit.
A little bit.
Sure, but I thought that was an interesting way of putting it. Just kind of like opening on just like making you think about death, and then just kind of heading into this whole picture of what this dude's life is like, and just the way that he swindles, and
he seems to be fearless about, and like doesn't think of the finality of a lot of it.
Right. Yeah.
So there are some themes where
that was an interesting choice to open on that, and yeah, but anyway. After that is when it just kind of goes hard into like the
sleaze.
Yeah, the sleaziness, and also just in the 90s it was a huge deal to try to be as like clever and snappy and witty with dialogue as much as you possibly can, and this definitely falls into that. Except it's also, it tries to do that, and it's also incorporating just like, a lot of like really graphic sexual terms in there as well, which is interesting.
It's trying to be a Shakespeare play.
Right, yeah.
And I think it does a very good 90s job of it.
Yeah.
And yes, and that's literally how I would see the theme of this. This thing is, I mean, based on what Joey's been saying, I think that it is definitely something that maybe be a little bit deeper than what it portrays.
Kind of,
but like barely.
It hints at that at times, but then, like I said, after just the opening parts is when it just like really is just like, wow. Wow.
But then it gets all arty at the end, though.
It gets weird at the end. Okay. So yeah, this whole bet thing is very entertaining to see play out. That is one thing that you can say about this movie.
This movie is entertaining.
That it is very entertaining to watch. It doesn't really lose you. It's a tight, like, 95 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of get roped into this whole thing. It gets you interested in exactly, like, where things are going to be going. Because it sort of builds up this stepbrother, stepsister relationship as sort of, like, this forbidden... like Sebastian's forbidden fruit. It's like his like ultimate goal in life,
and then
is to get with his stepsister.
He even writes in a journal about it all.
Yeah,
and
at length
about
he
how
makes like he does like
he hates her and but he wants her. It's like it's a combo of
I love you, I hate you.
Yeah, it's just honestly it's just a 90s pop punk emo kind of movie.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
It is, but it taps into the horniness of the teens.
That's true. Smells like Teen Spirit.
Oh god, it smells terrible.
It smells. But yeah,
this movie smells.
This movie does smell like Louis Vuitton because it's got some high class elements to it too.
Right.
At least the scenery.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes place in like these lush
upper class
locations, these mansions.
Yeah, horseback riding's involved.
Yeah, they're doing like all of this, bourgeois activity.
Suits.
Yeah.
But definitely even if they have some, I love one of the opening scenes when that one police officer's like, you can't park here. And then he's just like, whatever. And he doesn't even say anything. He just like does it. And then the police officer just like has his hands up as he's looking, as the camera keeps just going past him. He's like, oh, come on, man. Like that's literally what I think. I'm like, oh my god.
Yep. So cool though.
It is so cool. I mean, that's kind of like I said, it's the dream. People want to live this dream. It's like, fuck the authorities, fuck the police.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's a pop punk emo dream.
Right. I want to say, I don't know who the opening artist was for the song that was playing at the very beginning, but that was like ultra, just like whiny pop punk at the very beginning. So
I'm looking up the soundtrack.
It introduces you to the world very much, just right off the bat. Placebo,
I
don't know.
Every you, every me. All I know is I know the band Blur. I know Counting Crows.
Yeah, the Counting Crows ballad that comes in is so out of place.
There's some out of place things in this movie.
Most of it is, I would say.
Well, he took what I was going to say right out of my mouth. Oh boy, I love this. I got to finish this though. Ottoman not wanting to let us which 10 tracks of original score plus tracks from his works to other films and TV shows, including Halloween H2O,
Ooh.
20 years later, Half People in Fantasy Island.
Wow.
Of course. This is exactly the type of...
So the score was just like remnants of other shit?
It looks like it.
Interesting.
But it was rejected.
Oh. Okay, so it was rejected in favor of a soundtrack of like actual songs. I see.
Yeah. Well, anyway...
Which makes sense because the soundtrack placed on like the Billboard chart.
Oh my god, this movie. Oh, okay. It won awards, but then I look at the award ceremonies and I understand completely what they are.
Yeah, it won some Teen Choice Awards
and MTV Movie Awards.
MTV Awards. Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar won the Best Female Performance for MTV Movie Awards.
Deserved.
Deserved.
She won Best Villain.
Best Kiss.
Best Kiss.
That's a thing. They both won.
Also, you got to talk. This conversation is pretty scattered.
It's true.
That's fine.
This movie's scattered.
Yeah. Can we talk about how I want to talk about just one shot that lasts for like maybe a couple seconds. It's when Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe are talking about, they're sort of introducing this idea of there being like a bet between the two of them. Mm-hmm. And she just talks about Cecile, and just for like a split second it just goes to this shot of her like at a carnival or something, standing next to somebody in a pickle costume. And then she has an ice cream cone and she drops it. Do you remember this?
I vaguely remember this.
Because it lasts for just like a second. And I guess it's just there to
have exposition.
It's meant
of who this person is.
It's meant to like show that she's like stupid or something. But it's like the goofiest thing I've ever seen. She's standing next to a dude in a pickle costume. She has ice cream. And she drops it, and that's what happens.
I have to look this up.
Find it. You have to understand what I'm talking about, because it's insane and it never gets referenced back to at all.
Well, everything that pops up is their kiss together, which is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something much better.
Ugh.
I mean,
I'm kidding. I mean, I say that to the people that are probably searching for it.
This
all
is
the time.
Hot. Yeah. I was 7 when this came out. Also hot.
being 7 years old?
No. Being 7 years old and thinking this was hot, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I should clarify that. This is probably not going to be in this part of the episode. It's really messed up.
This is one that we'll have to do some
editing.
Some chopping. And
who knows? I might put it in here.
I mean, it's your
prerogative.
Yeah.
Well, I can't find it.
Just trust me. Go back and watch it again. It's towards the very beginning.
Cruel Intentions. The Bet.
You can put it anywhere. That's a very...
Yeah, I remember that too.
There's a lot of lines like that where it's just like, wow, they really had a character say that in a movie right now.
And that's where that all started. The movie.
The movie?
The movie. The movie.
What are you getting at?
Put it anywhere.
Oh yeah.
That started the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't think I've ever heard it anywhere, before 1999.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway. I haven't seen this scene. I've only seen it once, but it was pretty funny. Because it's literally just a carnival scene.
Yeah, in the background there's like a Ferris wheel, and she's just like waving at whoever, and then there's just a dude standing by her in a pickle costume, and then she has like an ice cream cone, and she drops it, and she's just like, oh.
She is. I mean, that is definitely an apt description of how she is.
That's how she's portrayed in this movie, is just being like,
the whole time.
That's pretty much like her attitude.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. This movie.
It's perplexing.
So, anything else to say about any of the characters or anything?
I don't think so, but we should probably move on towards how things progress.
Sebastian starts falling for Reese Witherspoon.
Right. And this is sort of where the out of place Counting Crows ballad comes in, and it's like, really, these two?
Yeah.
Is she really into this guy much at all?
Yeah, it seems pretty surface level.
Yeah.
But it's only 95 minutes, so you gotta show as much.
Yeah.
as little time as you can.
We've left out the scene where she walks into the swimming pool and he's just naked. Yeah.
And then she's like, oh. And also, like, cover is like, oh, what? And he's like, what?
Yeah, she's like
he turns
oh.
around and, like, he's like, what? You never seen anyone change or something?
You mind while I put on my swimsuit or something like that?
I'm like, that's the most forward thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just like, man, wasting no time at all.
Just going straight into it.
But I liked how she covers like her vision and she says that's embarrassing. Because like she's embarrassed for herself for just walking in and seeing that, or
oh yeah,
I don't know. That's open to interpretation. Maybe
at the end of the day, she fell in love with this boy.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Still,
things kind of
somehow.
worked out. Yeah, because she read his journal where he's got like cut out photos of.
I find it kind of troubling and be like, I don't know if I want to mess with this.
Yeah, it's
I'd be
very
like,
weird.
it's
It's super weird, and like I don't know what that journal could say. All that you're really shown in the movie is just like a picture of Catherine, and then like it's like got like words around it that is just like saying like
bitch,
deceitful,
and that word.
And then in the corner it says Coke problem because she has like a little crucifix that she wears, and then it's got a little vial of cocaine inside of it.
God, I love that at the end.
Oh,
so much. But anyway,
God, dude.
That cocaine vial.
She gets it confiscated by the fucking dean or whatever.
I know we're jumping around, but clearly it doesn't end in a...
We are, but I mean, when we're talking about this sort of thing, that's how it is, okay?
God, I'm looking forward to talking about the end.
Okay. I mean, we can... Yeah, okay, we got to the point where, like, I believe Reese Witherspoon's name in this movie is Annette, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Annette,
it's Annette.
starts to kind of fall for Sebastian. She kind of gets roped into it. And then Sebastian is, like, troubled by this because he actually begins to like her as well because she makes him laugh. Because she does some goofy faces.
She said something funny. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar calls her out. It's like, she makes you laugh.
I know. It's like it's illegal for these people to laugh. Which
like,
is...
that's why you love her? That's why you love her? Because she makes you laugh? She's like, yeah, no one makes me laugh, man. That doesn't happen.
Hey, come on, dude.
Come on, you coke addict.
Coke addict.
People can laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Catherine.
Doesn't like laughter. Rich people don't like laughter. Which,
Fun
I mean,
fact.
I don't think that's necessarily false.
Yeah, it's not inaccurate.
Hey.
They're all business. They don't have time for fun.
No.
But anyway, so he tries to distance himself from her, right?
Yeah.
Tries to hurt her.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's like, screw it. Like, honestly, I do really like her, and I need to
it's time to come clean.
And then he comes clean, shows a journal. Like, obviously, he's not around because they had a big fight. Because he's, like, trying to push her away. He's like, well, here's this journal. It's like, and then, he sends it to her.
Yeah.
In this nice montage of a really great song.
Mm-hmm. Some other ballad of some kind, probably.
Great ballad.
Yeah.
I love how he's hanging outside the window as she's reading it.
It's the way that this part is depicted is that he just stands there all night because it's morning when he just decides to continue walking down the street, and then it just kind of like pans over and it's her window still.
And
so he's literally just standing there.
And she's reading it, and you can see that he can see that she's reading it.
Yeah,
and you can
see. So
see
he's watching her read that. So that's even though like it's trying to build to the fact that like these two are actually into each other and they want to be together. He's still a fucking creep.
Yeah, why would you be hanging out there?
He's
like,
doing
do
weird shit.
Do other things.
Yeah,
she'll write you.
Yeah, maybe do something to like take your mind off of this whole situation.
Go get an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
At the Ferris wheel.
Get you a waffle cone.
Just do it. But anyway, it just kind of unfolds from there to where you see it doesn't really work out.
Yeah, this is an altercation.
There's an altercation that happens.
Daylight altercation was how I put it.
Well, you know how he more or less Sebastian comes clean and tells Catherine to like fuck off, more or less.
Oh yeah, right.
And Catherine has been sleeping with this piano teacher,
Cecile's cello teacher.
Cecile's cello teacher, and this cello teacher is in love with Cecile, but also fucks Catherine on the side. So he's not a really apt dude either. But anyway, he gets mad that Catherine says that Sebastian's hurt him. Or hurt her, and so he's like, oh well, I gotta go beat this guy up and teach him not to hurt women like this. and then that's literally how the altercation happens on the side of the street in the middle of daylight and traffic.
Yeah, it's like at 8:30 a.m. and they're having a brawl in the middle of the street near Central Park, and then
tragedy strikes.
Disaster, yeah.
You got the slide whistle for this part. Tragedy strikes.
Tragedy.
So they're having a scuffle, Sebastian and the cello teacher, and then all of a sudden, here comes Annette trying to save Sebastian because she's in love with him now, and so she gets pushed inside onto the street where there's oncoming cars, but Sebastian's like, oh my god, I gotta save her, obviously, and so he runs out in the street, pushes her out of the way, gets hit by the car, and boom, he dies.
He fucking dies.
And that's literally that's how the movie is like kind of set this whole thing up. It's a Shakespearean tragedy. It's a love story that doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't. These characters are tragic figures.
It's forbidden love. Sebastian and Catherine had this forbidden love. Now Annette can never really be in love with Sebastian because he's dead.
It's the ultimate tragedy.
It's the forbidden love.
Yeah. So,
and then how this movie ends is just fantastic. Might be one of the best endings I've ever seen on film ever unfold.
Lordy.
Well, anyway, so this is it. They're at this prep school. It's about to start the semester, but they end on a tragic. They begin with a tragic note. Oh, Sebastian has died.
They're doing like a funeral service
for Dean, for Sebastian, and the Dean is doing that, and Catherine's in the bathroom doing coke with her crucifix,
having a tough time.
She can't. Oh, she's really having a bad time, and everyone's real sad about this thing. And then all of a sudden, someone came in the door.
It's okay. You're good.
I love you. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing mass amount of people walk out of the funeral when she's.
There's this one girl that begins this whole part by just running into the service, like just with this like pamphlet.
Yeah.
So, if there's a service going on somewhere. It's not exactly okay to just run into it and just interrupt it because you just found some hot gossip. So that's on its own. That's pretty weird.
It's a setup. The whole thing's a setup.
It's just like, oh, okay, this girl's just running into it and it's fine.
Yeah. This pamphlet happens to be Sebastian's journal. That was printed out.
It was published.
And it was given out to half of the funeral audience members.
That's a lot of copies.
That's a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
Wasn't a lot of free copies for that stuff.
Probably
but anyway, she comes out, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Catherine, and she's like, what's going on? Like, how dare you stop my speech during this funeral?
Yeah.
And then she sees that this journal has been passed around, and she's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, I killed Sebastian.
The dirty secrets have been exposed.
I hear your dirty little secrets. If that song was out then, that would have been for this particular song.
It would have been played during the end credits, probably.
But we got the Verve, we got Bittersweet Symphony instead, which was great.
Yeah. As soon as that was starting, I was felt like I was losing my mind. Because, that song is associated with, I don't know. To me, it's associated with
uplifting, positive.
It's an uplifting song. It's a nice sounding song.
Yeah,
it's meant to inspire hope and goodwill amongst people.
Nope.
I hear it used. I remember there was a bunch of bands that did a cover version of that song for charity. So it's meant to have this good message to it, right?
Yeah.
But it's used in this context, and it's just so
surprise
bizarre. Is one of the strangest things ever.
But yeah, it just it also is really funny. You just see a bunch of people looking up as she's doing that, looking at the journal, and they just shake their head in slow motion.
Yeah,
There's all like really like
so
how dare
cartoony.
you?
Yeah.
Like they're all just realizing how awful this person is. She's like, and then that's where Joey mentioned earlier that the priest comes out and looks at the crucifix,
and it's where her cocaine is.
and he takes it. He looks at her and shakes his head too.
It's all in slow motion,
and it's so great.
Oh my god.
So Joey, what did we learn?
Nothing. But
we learned nothing from this, from neither Cruel Intentions nor The Handmaiden. We learned nothing.
No, in all seriousness, I think in sort of this pairing, I guess you could say that we learned about the two extreme sides of depiction of sexuality in cinema, whether it be like as a sort of a way to depict like sort of the lack of morality in a certain society, or well, I mean, you could say that for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, one is like they're both masquerading as something else. They're masquerading as like people can do whatever they want because they have power over a situation or a scenario.
Right.
Whereas you have, the kind of the Sarah Michelle Gellar's character in Cruel Intentions, and then you have the men in The Handmaiden.
Yeah.
Like you just have these two different types of characters having all the power.
Yeah.
And like just kind of lording it over everybody else.
Yeah. It's sort of about like sexual deviance in high society, and like how that can be used to against others, I guess.
Yeah, in a tragic way for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun dun. Dun, dun, dun. That's me trying to do a Bittersweet Symphony, but Joey's got a better slide whistle for it. Here it comes.
Sorry, that was my cue. That didn't work out too well.
That sexual deviancy is what we're going here for. So I think that's a good wrap for these two films.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you are all the way this far, we're about to do a preview of what Chapter 3 will look like.
Yeah, now's the time where we figure out what other weird combination we're going to end up with for the third chapter of this little journey we're on, I guess.
So we have a list in front of us, and we're going to do a random number generator. Right about now, we're going to get the first one. This is going to be the more high art one. Yeah. So here we go.
I don't know what you're talking about with the random number generator. We actually have like this giant wheel that we're about to spin.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know.
Hold on, let me make this sound. Okay,
number 487 is where we landed on the bit. It's a big wheel because there's
a big wheel. There's a lot.
There's almost 1,000 spaces on this wheel, so it's a.
And I'm sizable. Looking through here. 487.
487.
Let's see if we can find it.
Hold on. We gotta confirm.
Let's try again.
Okay.
That one I'm not seeing.
I think it's funny that we test drove this wheel twice and it worked out those times, and then we decide to record and then it doesn't. So
yeah, that's how this works.
147 now.
147. Okay, almost there. Ooh, we both have this one.
It's a great.
It's a great one. In the Mood for Love.
Wong Kar-wai. It's his masterpiece.
This is a beautiful film from Hong Kong. So I'm looking forward to watching this again.
It's a good coincidence because I bought it recently because I wanted to see it again because it's been so long. And this just gives me the right opportunity to finally get back into it.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I haven't seen this in probably a year, and I guess Joey and I both have this film, and so it's easily accessible for both of us, and so that's awesome.
Okay, we're in the mood for love, but what else are we?
What are we else in the mood for? Here we go for the
We're spinning our other wheel, which is a lot smaller.
a lot smaller wheel.
Yeah, it's only got 50 spaces on it.
Click, 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 click. Number 12. Here we go. This is gonna be a good one.
It's a little terrifying, to be honest. Number 12 is Aloha.
Aloha. Number 12 is Aloha.
Oh no.
Is this with Bradley Cooper?
Yeah.
Directed by Cameron Crowe.
It's Cameron Crowe's Aloha with Bradley Cooper, Rachel McAdams, and Emma Stone.
That's a stacked cast.
Among a few others.
In the Mood for Love and Aloha.
Aloha is known as infamously for many reasons, which we will...
Can we name this one In the Mood for Aloha?
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right?
In the Mood for Aloha.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, this is going to be a good chapter 3.
I'm always in the mood for Aloha, baby.
Hey, you in the mood for Aloha?
Oh,
and then I look over, and you know, Joey's already got it in his hand. He's got Aloha in his hand. He's like, I'm ready for it. I was ready for it before he even said it.
I was.
Well,
you know what? I
I
haven't even seen any other Cameron Crowes, so this would be a perfect starting point for me.
This will be a perfect starting point for Cameron Crowe. Just kidding, for Joey. Well, that ends our first. Just kidding, it's our second.
This is yeah.
It's late.
If you count the other things that we did beforehand, it's definitely not our first. So
No.
I don't know what you're thinking.
Well, this counts as our second episode, our chapter 2
Yeah.
in our Whistling Dixies podcast.
Yep, the cruel intentions.
The cruel intentions of the Handmaiden.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to our steamiest episode yet.
Yeah, this episode was hot.
Yeah.
And hope
Very sorry if we got you a little bothered listening to it, but I mean,
that's kind of
yeah, that's what you signed up for, everybody.
this just happens in this podcast. So anyway, I hope everyone's doing good out there. I hope you have a good rest of the week. Enjoy
Enjoy
everything.
Why not?
Why not? Well, this is Nathan signing off.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Goodbye.